Mr. Cuccinelli, I'd like to pick up on that last answer. So you mentioned the SAVE database is not in widespread use by election officials. It's cumbersome, it's expensive. Are there tools that Homeland Security has that could be useful and accessible to election officials in trying to identify citizenship status?
Well, the SAVE database could be used more simply if it were allowed to be and structured to be. I was at USCIS only 6 months before I moved on to be the acting deputy secretary, and spent some time paying attention to the subject and realized just what a cumbersome effort that it took. And they do everything they can to make it harder, honestly. It is bureaucratic in addition to the structure of the database being problematic. And it has its limitations. We don't keep lists in this country of citizens. What the SAVE database includes is people who we've had contact with who are not citizens. So obviously, if you think of the gotaways at the border, million plus gotaways at the border under the Biden administration, they're not in the SAVE database.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. To that point, Mr. Von Spakovsky, first of all, thank you for being here today. I commend your work as the manager of the Heritage's election law reform, and both the election fraud database and the scorecard have been valuable tools for us in our work to promote voter confidence. To bring this home for us, if you would please go back to the subject of what tools can the federal government be providing to help states have accurate voter registration lists, SAVE database, other tools. What can we be doing to help state election officials improve the accuracy of the lists?
Well, as Secretary Warner said, the Social Security's Master Death Index is a requirement. States ought to be able to use it easily, freely, and frequently without being charged by the federal government to do it. The DHS databases need to be, as Ken Cuccinelli says, restructured and made easy to use by election officials so that they can do that. Use that also to check on citizenship status. States need to be allowed to require proof of citizenship when people register to vote in exactly the same manner that all employers in the country have to fill out the federal I-9 form to show that a person they're hiring is, like I said, a U.S. citizen or is an alien who's here legally and has a work permit. I just don't understand why it's okay for the federal government to require that of employers and people like me when I get hired, but supposedly the state should not be able to be allowed to do that. Any other federal databases that contain information on where people reside and live should also be open to the states to use to check their voter registration list. The whole point of this, like I said, is to get clean rolls. Now, if I can make one more point, I'm constantly hearing people saying, oh, well, if you do that, states are going to purge all these voters and people are not going to be able to vote. No state, when they do these database comparisons, automatically takes people off the rolls. They use the information they get, showing, for example, that someone is not a U.S. citizen, and then they engage in an individual investigation to make sure that information is accurate. And second, when states make a mistake, let's say they mistakenly believe that someone has moved to another state and they take them off the rolls, the idea that they're not going to be able to vote is wrong. Why? Because Congress, when it passed the Help America Vote Act in 2002, put in a requirement that every state allow provisional balloting. And that federal law, which all the states follow, says if you show up at a polling place and your name is not on the list, they've mistakenly removed you. If you tell the election official, I'm a registered voter and I'm eligible to vote, they have to give you a ballot. They give you a provisional ballot, you complete it, you fill out information on basic information on when you registered. It's set aside, and election officials have to investigate it. They have to decide whether your vote counts. When I was a county election official in Virginia for 3 years, we would get provisional ballots like that, and if we discovered that a mistake was made, the ballot got counted. So even in those I think, rare circumstances where state officials make a mistake, folks are still going to be able to vote.